Welcome to Math.random. In this lecture, we'll be taking a look at the Math.random function, and then we'll be modifying some random number ranges. So let's start off by checking out the Math.random function. So as you can tell, when it says Math.random, we know that it's a math class method. And the declaration for this method is static double random. So it returns a double value, it does not take in any parameters, and it's a static method as all of the math class methods are. And it'll return a random number that is of double type that is greater than or equal to 0 and less than 1. So it'll be any double. It can be 0.28, 0.33, anything like that. And let's say that we want to give x, a variable x, a random value from 0 to 1, a double value. So we would go double x equals math.random. So math.random would return a double value between 0 and 1, and whatever that random value would be assigned to the double variable x. So now let's see, we know that we can get a random double generated from 0 to 1, but often it comes up, what if we want to get a different range? What if we want it from 3 to 4 or anything like that? And what if we want different ranges? That's where we'll be looking at how we can modify the ranges of random numbers that appear. So let's say that we want to, instead of getting a double value from 0 to 1, we want to get a double value from 0 to 10. And so what we would do now is we would go double y equals 10 times math.random. So the difference from when we were generating a double from 0 to 1 is that we're multiplying by 10. And by multiplying by 10, the random double will now be between 0.0 and 10.0. And let's say that we want to go from 3.0 to 4.0. Let's say we want to double within that range. Then what we do is we do double y equals math.random, and then we add 3 on. So now all the random doubles that will be generated will be between 3 and 4. Next, let's see if we wanted to get something like from 3.0 to 8.0. Now in this case, what we would do is we would go double y equals 5 times math.random plus 3. So clearly you can see a pattern here. Let's say that we remove the plus 3 from this declaration, then it would be double y equals 5 times math.random. And what would happen then is that y would have a value from 0.0 to 5.0. But by adding 3, we're increasing the minimum and the maximum. So by adding on 3, we're going from 0.0 to 3.0, and we're going from 5.0 to 8.0. So again, to reiterate, when we multiply by 5, we basically multiply the minimum and the maximum by that number. So originally, the math.random minimum is 0 and the maximum is 1. So when we multiply 0 times 5, we get 0. So that's the new minimum. And when we multiply 5 by 1, we get 5. So now the minimum is 0 and the maximum is 5. Now when we want to make it 3 to 8, we'll simply add on 3. And by adding on 3, 3 is added on to the minimum and 3 is added on to the maximum. So 0 plus 3 is equal to 3 and 5 plus 3 is equal to 8. And then we get 3 to 8. And keep in mind that the math.random usually returns a double value. So oftentimes we may need to get an integer value instead. And that's where the integer cast comes in. And it's simply int in parentheses put before whatever the double value, and we've actually taken a look at this earlier in the course. So for example, let's say that we were to we wanted an integer variable x, and let's say that it would generate a random integer from 0 to 99. So what we would do basically is we would go int x equals, then we use the int cast, and then we go math.random times 100. And what this does is this generates a random integer from 0 to 99. So we can basically establish whenever we say int math.random times a random integer will be generated from 0 to a minus 1. Next, let's take a look at, let's say that we don't want to go from 0 to something. Let's say we want to go from 1 to 100 or anything else. Let's say we don't want to start with 0. That's where we'll have to add on a number as well. So when we go int math.random times a plus b, we'll get a random integer starting at b and going on till b plus a minus 1. So basically the 0 is replaced by b. So that's what happens when you add on b. So if we go int math.random times 100 plus 1, we'll get a random integer from 1 to 100, because as we know, these random integers are going to start being generated from b, and in this case b is 1, so it's going to be 1, 2, 3, all the way till b plus a minus 1. So a minus 1 is 100 minus 1, which is 99. And b is 1. So 1 plus 99 equals 100. So the random integers will range from 1 to 100. And let's look at a final example before we move to Dr. Java. And that'll be int math.random times 20 plus 30. And this will get us a range from 30 to 49. Because as you can tell, b is equal to 30. So the random integers, the minimum random integer would be 30. And then we know that this will go up till b plus a minus 1. So a minus 1 is equal to 20 minus 1, which is equal to 19. And 30, which is b, plus 19, which is a minus 1, is equal to 49. So the random integers can be generated from 30 to 49 and nothing else. It has to be in between. And next, let's move to Dr. Java, and we'll be taking a look at a quick example, and we'll see how the value comes out to be different every time a program is run. So let's move to Dr. Java. So here we are at Dr. Java, and what we're going to do now is we're going to let's define a variable int x equals int right here math.random, and we're going to multiply by 100. Okay, so what we've done is we've declared an integer x, and the reason, keep in mind that we use the int cast because the math.random method, it returns a double, and we need this int cast in order for there not to be an error, because remember, an integer type variable cannot be assigned the value of a double. And we've multiplied by 100. So as you remember, when it's math.random times 100, whatever a is, which in this case is 100, the potential values of the integer will go from 0 to a minus 1. So everything that this, the value of x can be anything from 0 to 99, because 99 is a minus 1. So now let's go and let's use system.out.println to print out x and see what the value of it will be. Now keep in mind it's going to be it's just going to be a randomly assigned value. We have no control over what the actual value will be. So let's run, and the value comes out to be 15. So that's another value. Now let's run it once more and let's see if x comes out to be different. This time x is equal to 40. Again, now x is equal to 36, and as you can see, every time I'm running it, it can vary. Now it's 20. It can be anything. This is completely random. Now it's 48. Now it's 4. So as you notice, this is a completely random way of doing it. Now it's 53, and any value from 0 to 99 can be generated. Now, if we wanted to go from 1 to 100, not 0 to 99, I would simply go plus 1 here. And what this would do is this would change the range from 0 to 99. It would change it to 1 to 100, because this plus 1 is b. 1 represents b in the formula we looked at earlier in this lecture. So the starting number will be 1, and it'll go on till 1 plus 99, which is 100. So 1 to 100. So now let's recompile, and let's run this and see what we get. We get 95, and we can go up to 100. We get 17, we get 30, we get 80, and we get 45. And as you can see, these are all different numbers that are coming up. Now let's delete this declaration, and let's see how it looks when we're not, x is not a double, x is not an integer, x is a double. So let's go double x equals, let's say we go math.random. That's it, just that simple. So recall that the Math.random method does not take in any parameters, and it simply returns a double value from 0.0 to 1.0, and that will be the value of the double x. So let's run this, and we'll see that all these numbers will be decimal numbers, and they'll be within 0.0 and 1.0. So let's run. So as you can see, we're getting 0.104. That's greater than 0 but less than 1. Let's run again. As you can see, we're getting long doubles, and they're all within 0.76. All of these doubles are within 0 and 1. Now keep in mind that usually when we use random generation, we usually use them with integer type, so it's important to remember to use the integer cast whenever using it, otherwise that will cause an error. So that's something that's very important to note and remember. And otherwise, we've looked at the Math.random method, which is a static method that's part of the math class, and it's something that we frequently see in programs when we want to generate random numbers.